Welcome back, coaches. This is the Football Coaching Podcast. I am Daniel Chamberlain, co-host, here with Joe Daniel, as always.
What's up, Coach?
Dude, I was listening to some of our episodes the other day, specifically the relational coaching and one other after that. Our intro is it's a timeless classic now.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Always
for
consistent.
it. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Real quick before we go any further, I want to talk about what this episode's about. So what we're here today, talk efficient practice planning, the 90-minute practice plan. We're going to really get into the fact that most of us don't think we have enough time to put in what we want and how you can basically do whatever you want. You got to get efficient. You got to prioritize. You got to move on with life. You can get it all in. Your kids will understand it as long as you prioritize and work things a certain way. So that's what we're talking about today. Before we move on past that, let's do our level ups, Joe. And I'm going to let you go first here.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I'm in all my nerd marketing things alongside football coaching. And so one that I really wanted to go to was an event by Russell Brunson called Funnel Hacking Live. So this was like the last Funnel Hacking Live this year. It's in Vegas and it's 4 or 5 days. And there was just no way it was going to happen, there was no way it was going to be able to happen with the boy. And so I knew that they were doing it, but I just decided Monday morning that they were doing the replay this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So they kind of condensed it. There were a couple of things they had to take out. Like, for example, Tony Robbins does not allow you to show his talk on a replay, which is fair. Tony Robbins can do whatever he wants. But they did the replay pretty cheap compared to what it would cost to go to Vegas. So I was like, cool, I'm in. And it's 3 days and it's good. And I got a lot of, good stuff. But there were two that were like motivational speakers, right? And it was the first one, I think Russell spoke first, but the very first guest speaker and the very last one. And when I listened to the first one, I was like, that's my level up. Like, I know what my level up is going to be. And it's a guy who a lot of you have probably seen shorts of and TikToks of and stuff like that. Good and bad, I'll say. Andy Elliott, Elliott Army or whatever he calls that group. Guy was a used car sales. He's a sales trainer. And now he's kind of transcended from sales trainer to motivational. Very much gets put out there in the shorts. So when he first came on, I was like, Adam, I'm not here for this. Like, I have no interest in this guy because the shorts very much put out the buzzword, I guess, like toxic masculinity type of thing. So like the shorts are always like, oh my, like all your salespeople need to have 6-pack abs and all your salespeople need to be like, you can't hire anybody. Like essentially it's like all these things are like, don't hire, not, the shorts that people post are like, don't hire anybody that doesn't have 6-pack abs. And the comments are like, this guy's toxic. He's awful. And like his talk was really just his story, which is a good story. And, but it was a good starter. And it was more about not necessarily that your salespeople need to have 6-pack abs, but the idea that he was a used car salesman, or not used. I don't know if he's used cars. I think he was a new car salesman. But he was making like $2 million a year, not seeing his family, not being around his kids. He was getting fat. He was getting out of shape. So he was doing nothing but working. Right. And so it's the idea, which I think is important, that you can, not only can you do all of the things, be successful in business, but also have like relationships and be a good dad and be a good husband and, faith, and all of these things can all be, but not only can you, but they have to, if you aren't doing one. So that was a good one. But then I almost shut it off at the end because on Wednesday, as I said, I've been in this for 25 hours or whatever. And so on Wednesday, it's like 4 o'clock, getting ready to go. It's my buddy's birthday. So I was going to go up and his family set a whole like surprise thing up. So I was going to go out there and I was like, I just sit for a little bit. And this guy comes out screaming and jumping and hollering. the goofy stuff, right? The stuff that you're like, oh, this is motivational speaker guy. Like, oh, and my wife walks in like as it starts. She got home from work, like as it's starting, she walks in and she's like, what is this? And I'm like, I'm
Wow.
about to turn it off. Like, it's that, like, sometimes when I'm watching like professional wrestling, I'm like, God, if somebody walks in and sees this right now, they're gonna be like, everyone that it's like cringy, but this is cringy, like motivational speaker stuff. And like I'm into all this stuff, but not when it gets like super. So I'm like, oh, and he's like, everybody get up and clap, and we're gonna do that. I'm like, I hate this. I hate this. So it's a guy named Ben Jar, KJAR, and I didn't know anything about him. He was a amateur wrestler. Speaking of cringy wrestling, but he was an amateur wrestler, and he was born with a disease called I think it's Cruzon. Um, so it's a facial. I don't know exactly what it is, but his face is essentially kind of like deformed. He's had tons and tons of
I've
surgeries.
seen him. So he got like a really big forehead, and I was like, his
Sure,
eyes are
sure,
too
sure.
low.
Yes,
Yeah.
sure,
Okay.
sure. Yeah, that's from the disease. Um, and he's had tons and tons, like hundreds and hundreds of surgeries to, but essentially, it was a deal where, his story was that he wasn't supposed to play contact sports. He wasn't supposed to be miserable. He was supposed to be, going through years and years of therapy to deal with all of this, and how he turned it around. And his company is Victor over Victim. And so it's a cool, but it was a really cool message. I was into it, and then he went into his after he wrestled. He was a state champion. He was a 3-time state champion. He eventually went back to old man wrestling, and he was a world champion as a masters. So like I identify with that because he's talking about like competing and all this sort of stuff, and I compete and I love that. But he also went through like his um family situation. So he got married. They couldn't have kids. They had a couple of miscarriages. They had a couple of adoptions fall through. Stuff that we've been through. He actually has adopted 4 kids, and 2 of them were within like 5 days. I'm glad that we went a different route and have one. Like we got exactly what we wanted. We got one, not adopted, but through all sorts of IVF and stuff. But so it was a really cool story. And so if my level up was those bookended things that I didn't expect to get. I was there for like the marketing and the learning. But I would recommend anybody look up Ben Jar. It might be things that you can show to your kid. I mean, it's definitely things that you can share with your kids if you want to have, a pre-practice or a pre-game kind of, pull up a YouTube video. I know we all like to show those kinds of things. I can't name one specifically off the top of my head because I just found him, but I wouldn't use Andy Elliott for that, but I would use Ben Jar for sure. Really, really cool story, and very good speaker too.
That's awesome. It's always good to find those. I don't know if you call it motivational, but it's just like messages that hit home, right? Especially for you. Like it sounds like you kind of hit multiple ways. So that's really cool. My level up is I think it even has a title, and it's just a reflection of leadership. And there's this thing in the military where like, we always talk about, the actions of your soldiers is a reflection of your leadership. And I obviously just got out of 5 years of training future leaders in OCS. And then I took this platoon sergeant spot, and it was absolute chaos. I'm learning on the fly. The soldiers are learning on the fly. I've lost all my in-between leaderships. Like I'm the E7, the platoon sergeant, and then I don't have another NCO, which is the kind of guys we hold to really high standard and lean on, because if you're not yet an NCO, you kind of have a free pass in the military to be in a learning position all the time. You're not expected to be good at stuff because you've not got there yet. So I'm away at this military school. Finally get to go home in a couple days. I'm absolutely stoked. But my unit had drill this past weekend. And of course, I'm not there to be with them. And my section, my platoon is the mess and the supply. Well, the mess section is supporting the entire infantry battalion for the 279 infantry here in Oklahoma, or there in Oklahoma, Northeast Oklahoma. So essentially, several hundred infantry soldiers depend on us to eat and get bullets and fix their vehicles and stuff like that. So I had to just put all of this leadership weight on a freshly promoted E4, which means essentially this is a person who's been in the Army for like maybe 24 months.
Oh,
And they just got thrown to the wolves. And I set her up for success the best I could. She's shown a lot of leadership potential in the past. She has a great team. I have a very, very good. I'm so proud of the young core of soldiers that I have in this mess section. I know what y'all are thinking. Like, dude, it's just Army cooks. There's a lot of time hacks. There's a lot of pressure in that kitchen to feed a whole bunch of soldiers. You can't screw shit up. You can't be late. There's a lot of stuff going on. So, and then if you don't, all you did is just failed the infantry. So it's a little bit of pressure, especially for her with no leadership training whatsoever. Anyway, I've been working with them for the last just about a year now, and just instilling things like extreme ownership. You think I talk about on here a lot. Like that's an every drill weekend thing. I'm constantly texting them about it, emails, stuff like that. And just taking all this leadership training I did for years, and I get to do it now with them and trying to build future leaders. They absolutely killed it this past weekend with no true leadership around in there, just doing it by themselves. And they did such a good job. And it was noted, and I of course worked with my first sergeant and my readiness NCO and the guy and commander, the guys that needed to know like they're going to be in a pickle. And they, kept the wolves at bay as best they could. But anyway, they got to the end of the weekend, and the battalion commander and battalion sergeant major made a special trip over to our unit at final formation and coined every single one of my cooks, which for you non-military people it's a pretty neat thing to get a coin from that high of a level. Now there's some people out there that have coins that give them out like hotcakes, but those guys generally don't. It's usually like an impact thing. And then that young E4 who I was talking about, she actually got a medal, which will stay with her forever. It's an award that will help her get promoted in the future with promotion points. She'll be able to wear the ribbon on her Class A, stuff like that. So I think she ended up with an Army Achievement Medal. Anyway, it was just really, really neat. And then the first sergeant called me after drill and just kind of walked me through that. And it was just, it's nice to see when you're truly absent. Like, not, hey, I taught the other leadership guy, what I needed done for the weekend. No, I gave it all to this person who has no reason to be in that position and to just watch them thrive. And, I will take zero credit for it. They did it on their own. I hope that they used, some of the extreme ownership and some of the stuff I've been talking about with them for the last year or so. Because, here in a couple weeks, we're going to talk about buy-in, right? Getting buy-in from whether it's admin or players or whatever. We've got some really neat episodes coming up, and we're going to talk about some of them in just a moment. But getting buy-in's not easy. You get into a new place. I've ran off, and we talked. I said I don't have a lot of NCOs. A lot of them transferred out when they got held responsible and accountable for the stuff they were supposed to be doing, and they've been kind of shitbagging it for a while. A lot of them got gone,
yep,
and we're going to continue to lose a few more, I'm sure. But there's these few that have stepped up. So very, very proud, almost like a proud dad moment, because that's how the National Guard ends up. Is it's like having a bunch of kids all at once. It's like adopting 15 kids, Joe, at the
for
same
sure.
time. So anyway, super, super neat to see them succeed. Very cool to see the infantry come down and show. We always want to reward the good behavior, and for them to come down and be like, "Look, you busted your ass. You're not infantry. You're the cooks, but we still love you, and here's an award." So I just thought it was really neat all the way around. But it made me proud as their leader to be like, I can literally walk away, and all you did was just win an award from the infantry, so no big deal.
Nice.
Sweet. Real quick, I want to remind you guys, last week we talked about our passing game sucks, how you can get back to a simple passing game, fix what's broken. And that's going to come into effect here in this episode as well, right? We're talking about being efficient and simplifying the Coach Simple Play Fast Win method. Next week, we're going to talk about not being able to stop the run. We can't stop the run. So same thing, we're going to talk about just how to simplify that defense, get your run fits right, talk a little bit of umbrella principles. We've not talked that in quite some time. So it'd be really good to get back into that. Regardless of your scheme, whatever front you want to run, just attaching that umbrella principle to stop the run. So look forward to that coming out next week. Also want to remind you to refer a friend. True lovers of the Football Coaching Podcast, send it to somebody every week. This episode needs to go to someone. There's someone out there. We're talking efficient efficient practice planning. Somebody out there struggling with that, and you probably know who they are. They probably have 3-hour practices or think they can't run RPOs because there's not enough time or whatever it is. Send this to them. They need it. Let's pay the bills and we'll get into it.
Yeah. So the difference between a championship defense and a defense that is struggling every Friday night is not just talent. It is not luck. It's in your system. If you don't have a system, you scramble every week trying to fix problems on the fly. Your players are confused. Your assistants are not on the same page, and your defense is constantly playing on its heels. I've worked with thousands of football coaches who were making the same mistakes. They were overcomplicating the game of football. They're running. We always talk about a stack of plays and not a playbook. They just have a bunch of stuff, fronts, blitzes, stunts, coverages that don't really blend together, and they're calling them from the seat of their pants with no rhyme or reason. And as soon as we get those coaches in and we start putting their defensive system in place, everything changes. The players play faster. The coaches have more confidence. You have better practices. You start winning more football games. And that's why I put together my latest free guide, which is called What You Need to Know to Build Your Ultimate Defensive Football Coaching System. Inside that guide, you're going to find the blueprint for building a defensive system that works to simplify your playbook, get your players to buy in, and take control of the game. So you can download the free copy of that right now at joedanielfootball.com/system to take the guesswork out of coaching, build your ultimate defensive system, and turn your football program around this season.
Awesome. Real quick, I want to talk about athletic speed and movement. Bottom line up front, guys, we're going to make your kids faster. It doesn't matter what their speed is now. I'm sure this is off-season time, right? You've probably timed 40s by now because that's what we do in the off-season. We can make all of those speed up. Look, I just left a school that, I'm not sure we had more than one kid under a 5, okay? 5-second 40. It happens. That happens at places all over America. You're going to run into that team. We can get your kids down there. Okay. It's a 12-week program. It's 2 days per week by base scheduling. 20 minutes at the beginning of your practice. You're not eating up a lot of time. You don't have to take a whole day off to train speed. We get the training in 2 days a week, 20 minutes. You get out and you move on to the next thing. The great thing about this, especially as we get into this period of the summer and your off season, working back into season, is that we have an in-season program as well. So this is modified to be in season, which means the same thing. Twice a week, your practice starts with, let's get our sprints in.
But not 20 minutes in season. We shorten that.
Oh, there you go. Derek Smith came on a while back. I don't know. It's been a couple episodes. And he talked about, you lose your strength in something like 13 days or something, right? Like your max strength. So if you've been hitting the gym, you can take a little while off and you're not going to lose your strength. You lose your top speed in 2 to 3 days. So if you aren't working speed, at least on like a 3-day rotation, you're probably going to be getting slower. So it's one of those things. Yes, you need to lift in season. I'm not telling you to replace lifting in season, but I am telling you better start working speed in season, or you're not giving your kids the best chance to get to the playoffs and maximize that chance in the playoffs. AthleticSpeedMovement.com. Tell your phone right now, hey Siri, have her tell you to go to AthleticSpeedMovement.com as soon as you get home, or park your car, or whatever reminder you need to do. AthleticSpeedMovement.com. Sweet.
Cool.
Let's get into it here, Joe. So number one, we talked about, we don't have enough time to coach the right things. That's what this episode is titled. I'm sure that you're listening this far in just because you're thinking the same thing. We've all been there. I have been a part of 3-hour practices. God, it seems like back when I was a kid, they were that long or longer.
3 to 6.
People in my area are getting better. 2.5 hours, working down to that 2-hour mark. But of course, there's a lot of stuff we want to do, and we're struggling to get it all in. So I guess just how can we start alleviating that issue if you think you don't have enough time?
It all starts with, obviously, a practice plan. And this is having a practice plan, being organized. Now, you've heard that before, right? Everybody's supposed to have a practice plan. Everybody needs a practice plan. Everybody. I've coached at a lot of places, and there were always practice plans. They're usually practice plans. The difference in what we're talking about here is not just in that you need a practice plan. You need a practice plan that is focused, that is purpose driven, that is organized, repeatable, that everybody is into, everybody understands. It's high energy, high tempo, and you can force all of that. You can literally force all of that. JDFB, we have a thing called the 90-minute practice plan, and a lot of coaches immediately look at that and go, I cannot get a 90-minute practice. Your problem is, if you look at it and go, there's no way, then I'm going to tell you, you're going to have inefficient 2-hour practices. You're going to have inefficient 2-hour and 15-minute practices. You're going to have inefficient 2-hour and 30-minute practices. You're going to have inefficient 3 or 4-hour practices. If you can't get it done in 90 minutes, you can't get it done in 4 hours. By the same token, if you know how to get it done in 90 minutes, now I don't believe that I can have a phenomenal 4-hour practice by any means, but if you know how to get it done in 90 minutes, guess what? If you go 2 hours, it's going to be a much better 2 hours. If you go 2.5 hours using the same principles that you build a 90-minute practice with, you're going to have a better 2.5 hours. Now, there's a law of diminishing returns, and that's why that's the purpose of 90-minute practice plan, right? Is because to me, after 2 hours, it drops off massively. Where I think 2 hours is the spot where, like, the diminishing returns basically goes flat. And that's where 90 minutes comes from. I think that between 90 minutes and 2 hours, there's still and I don't argue this with anybody, between that extra 30 minutes, there's still a benefit of having that extra 30 minutes of teaching time, and the returns have not leveled off right yet, but the wear and tear increases to a level where I feel like we get so much in that first 90. And if we get off the field right then, everybody walks off feeling amazing, right? Holy crap. Like, I remember first started doing it. Like, we'd be out there practicing, boom, 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 boom. We're going, beep, 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 bring it up. What? Kids walk up, they're like, that's it? Yeah. Was it a good practice? Yeah. All right. We got what we came for. We came for a good practice. We didn't come to invest time, right? Time, putting more time into things is not, the best way to do it, right?
Right.
It's like, ideally, I want to find ways to invest less time and get more returns, because my players and my coaches will be fresher, right? They'll be jazzed up. So that's the thing that you need, is not just a practice plan. It is and I use the 90-minute practice plan as the example. We have I use a tool called the containers principle, and all of these principles and stuff, I think, I have like 9 principles that I focus on. And all of these different principles are really just they're guardrails, they're guidelines, right? They're, so we don't get off the rails, and have something to look at and go, okay, we're doing this. Let's pull it back in. And with containers, it's the idea that everything needs to have a start and an end time. Everything needs to have which we haven't nailed down on the football coaching podcast, but everywhere else we have. But I think it's because the football coaching podcast doesn't feel like we're doing a thing most of the time.
Hey, people reached out and were excited about the 90-minute episode with relational coaching.
No, people all the time.
The timing of it. They loved the 90-minute episode.
Yeah, I know. Here's the thing: if we weren't always recording at 8:30 at night, like, it'd be more likely. But
unfortunately,
I don't have time. Like, I just
right.
hard.
I got you.
Yeah, but So the containers principle is essentially the idea that everything is, has a container. 90-minute practice. So the things that I fit three. If you join JDFP Premium Coaching Systems, joedanielfootball.com/membership, you will have access to the quick start guide. And I actually, you fill out a kickoff registration that tells me about you and your football program. And I send you back a video that's me. It's not a canned video. It's me looking at the information about your kickoff registration and telling you, here's the things that I would look at first. And I use that quick start guide. Those are the most important, really built around the principles. And so a lot of coaches I will send to the containers principle video. And there's three things in the containers principle. Number one is 90-minute practice plan. Number two is the 5-minute rule, which is, number two is, I just blanked out. But anyway, one of them is one period.
You know what? Sign up
right?
for joedanielfootball.com and you will know what they are.
You'll find out with the one I'm blanking out on is. But in that, there is the idea that if you want to install something, it needs to be done in like one period, right? 5-day install. That's the other one. 95-1, right? 90-minute practice plan, 5 days. You can install your entire system. And anything you want to add after that, one period. If it takes more than one period, don't add it. And so you follow those rules that are in the containers principle, and I talk about how to apply them, how to stick to them, how to adapt them, because occasionally, the rules are made to be broken. But that idea that's the principle that really the 90-minute practice plan is built on, is that we have these containers. We have these things that we need to. And what happens is, if you don't have these containers, all the old coaching sayings, all the old do it right, do it light, do it wrong, do it long. You do it right for 5 minutes, or you do it wrong for 5 minutes. Which one do you want to do? It's 5 minutes. Make a decision. This is what I'm telling my player. It's 5 minutes. Make a decision. You want to do it right? You do it wrong. Because at the end of 5 minutes, that 5 minutes is gone. And we're on to the next thing. If here's my problem with that saying. Do it right, do it light, do it wrong, do it long. Okay. That tells me immediately that either you didn't have anything else planned, or everything you have planned after that is not important.
Less important. Yeah.
So if we suck at this tackling drill, we're just going to keep doing it, and we're not going to, or I'll get to the other part of that, and we're just going to cut special teams, right? Because it's not as important as this tackling drill, or whatever it is, or 7-on-7, or whatever it is, where something's going to get cut because this is important and the other stuff isn't that important. So everything's important. If I put it on this practice plan, it's because it's important and it needs to get done. Now, obviously there are things that are more important. If we have lightning and shortens practice and, whatever, I know what we're going to adjust, but because we have to, because the container just got smaller. But what I put in that 90 minutes is all important. It's all important. And then the other way that goes is do it right, do it light, do it wrong, do it long. We're going to be here until we get it done. Now you have a 3-hour practice that drags and drags. Or the old favorite, start practice over. Here's the problem. What if you start the game piss poor? You go across the field to the other coach and say, hey, my guys just weren't in it. We start over. I know it's 21-0 and there's still 4 minutes left in the first quarter. Can we let's just start over. We're going to start over. So I'm going to go, we're just going to go down to our end zone. We're going to do our warm-ups. And we'll be back out 0-0. Is that cool? Try it. Try it. Call a timeout when you're down 21-0. Walk right past the officials to the other sideline and say, hey, Dan, hey, buddy, we got to start over.
Start over.
That's not real. And so then you go, why do we start slow in games? Because if we start slow in practice, it doesn't matter. We'll just either stay out here until we get it right, or we'll start over. If you do that for 4 days out of the week, every week, that's how I'm starting games. So, You need an efficient practice plan that has purposeful things on it, that has a focus. This is what we're working on today. You need that practice plan. We teach it in the 90-minute practice plan. We teach it in our practice planning masterclass inside of JDFP Premium Coaching Systems. You build that plan. If you do all these old school things, I honestly, you're training your kid, and you're going to come. I don't know why we start so slow. I don't know why we're so bad in the fourth quarter. We practiced for 4 hours. You'd think they'd be great on Fridays, right? They only been on the field for 16 hours before we got here. Like, these things don't work. So, yeah, that's it.
I think kind of this is a two-part section here, just with, you have to have an efficient practice plan, but you got to know what the right things are. So, just with the title of the episode, I don't have enough time to coach the right things. Well, you need to determine, right? This is where we have to get into prioritizing things, being intentional. I think you used the word intentional earlier. It's one of my favorite words when we get here, because at my time at Owasso, and I got to jump up to the varsity group after our freshman season was done, and working with Justin Morsey and watching how he did offensive line. Every drill. Now, he had some everyday drills. I'm not saying everyday drills are not useful, because there's some fundamentals, especially with the O-line, that you absolutely have to get through. But you have to be intentional with everything else. You know what I mean? We need to be solving a problem. We saw a problem on Friday. We're going to solve that problem today. You have to be working in your seventh lineman. Look, Billy Bob, our starting right guard, got cramps on Friday. That's the problem. His ability to stay in the game. And my next guy was not ready. Okay, so now we are going to solve that problem of, we're going to go out here and intentionally get the next guy ready. Whatever it is that you're solving, you've got to go out and be very intentional with your drills. Be intentional with where coaches are. We talked, I think it was 2 or 3 episodes, about tight ends and how they can kind of go with the O-line, or they can go with the quarterback, or the quarterback, running back, or whatever it is, right? They can, but be intentional with that. What are we planning to do this week in our game plan? Do I want that tight end running a bunch of routes this week because their pass defense is absolutely terrible? Sorry, my wife's calling apparently. Or do we want them running with the O-line because we're going to run right through this team and they need to work that? Or maybe, like I said, we're solving a problem. Last week, our down blocks sucked from our H-backs and tight ends. So we're going to solve that now. Go out and have an intentional plan, and stop having so many everyday drills that it eats up your whole indie period.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, I actually just had a strategy session call with one of our coaches, and talking about drills, and getting his a coordinator and getting his coaches running the right drills. And we're talking, I'll give defensive line as an example. The defensive line coach has, he goes down there, and what I see a lot of defensive line coaches doing is, they're hitting the sled, right? They're doing, they're popping off on the sled. Or, back in the day, we're doing seat rolls, and we're doing stuff running around a hoop, right, for defensive ends. And every drill that you have and everything that you do should be building, a perfect play, essentially. And every piece, we talk about the one-on-one game. When we talk about, focus, problem solving is a great, especially in season, once you get going in season, problem solving is a great way to find the focus. But early on, as you talk, you mentioned everyday drills. I have the same drills, but they build, right? They progress.
Right.
Everyday drills is a bad term, because we're not doing the same thing every day. But I have the drills. What I think when you build a practice, the things that you focus on need triggers. And I love the term triggers, because something triggers, you fire, you explode. It's a purposeful, definite response. What's the trigger? And the defensive line popping the sled. What's the trigger? The worst thing you could do is do the trigger on, voice command, because they're going to jump off sides all night. And you're going to be like, what are you doing? It's like, well, you just drilled them. I see coaches do it all the time, even though we talk about it. Coaches all the time, like, set, go. And it's like, they don't start on that. They start on movement. Don't start any defensive drill on anything but movement. But what's the sled doing? Right? There's no trigger other than getting off the ball. And you're like, we're working on, maybe you're doing it because you're working on a strike, right? You're working on hand strike, let's say. Well, like, the only thing you can do off of that is the strike, and you're like, we're working this and that. It's like, no, you're not doing anything. If you I see coaches like, we're working hip roll. Hip roll's not a thing. You work hip roll in the weight room. You don't just hip roll. What if he down blocks and you hip roll and you just fall?
Yeah.
The trigger is what you should be drilling. Should you be drilling getting off the ball? Sure, but that comes in. You get plenty of that, right? Every snap of team is a drill on getting off the ball. You can drill that, and that's fine if you want to spend the first 2 minutes. You don't need 5; you need 2. Move the football. They what do you lunge out or you sprint for 5 yards or whatever you do? You can do that. But what's the trigger? We build everything around key reads. Key reads are the most obvious trigger. So I'm looking at the triggers for defensive linemen. If the offensive lineman down blocks, block away. That triggers me to bend. If the offensive lineman steps to me, that triggers me to post hip rip. If he tries to reach me, that triggers me to post hip rip. It's the same trigger. If he pass sets, that triggers me to post hip rip. Try to get to give him the hip. If he pass sets and then releases, that triggers me to screen retrace. Everything has a trigger. Of linebacker, the easy one is linebacker reads, right? Guard pull, that's a trigger. A lot of coaches have the guys yell pull pull, and it's like, that's fine. That's a voice cue. But if, like, don't base what the other guy is doing off of, this is the one that I disagree with. It's like, if you want to have your linebacker yell pull pull when the guard that he's reading pulls, perfectly fine with that. If there's some reaction that the other guy is supposed to do, now he has multiple.
Right, because he has a visual cue and
He's getting his
verbal
visual. He
cue.
needs to do that and then he's supposed to hear something and react differently somehow. It's like, why isn't that just built into his read? He needs triggers. So now he's got, like, you can't have multiple triggers, right? We're not out here, gunslinging with our 6-shooters doing tricks. Like, that's not what we're doing here. One trigger, and then we go to the next trigger. So the guard pull triggers me, and then I see the guard, I snap my eyes to the coming across the ball, and the guard's coming at me to block me, and that triggers a rip move. And then that triggers, as I track his near hip, that triggers my tackling progression of the back, right? I beat the block, I trigger the tackling progression. Each one of those is a trigger along the way to build the perfect play. And so you can when you talk about being intentional and being focused, problem solving, yes, 100%. But really, before we start problem solving, we need a basis, and it needs to be intentional, and it needs to be built on triggers. That's on the offensive line and the defensive line. Our offensive line spends all their time on the first 2 steps because those are triggered.
Yeah. I just, you made me think of Ed Orgeron when you were talking about, don't go on sound. He always had a ball on a stick, but I can remember he painted it green because he said, you better see the green, because that's the money. That's how you're going to cash out. You're going to get that green later if you can.
Ball on a stick, by the way, is a great
Obviously,
thing. We should
I
all
think
have
about it as it camouflages it with the turf or the grass, and then the ball on Friday night should be easier to see. You know what I mean? And also, but we're talking about this.
Every defensive line coach should have a ball on a stick, by the way.
That's absolutely right.
You go. All you need to do is everybody's got a busted football, right? Everybody's got that football that doesn't hold air anymore. Go get a broom handle, get that busted football, and get a can of great stuff. Stick the broom handle in, fill the football up with great stuff, ball and stick.
There you go.
There's your value for the football coaching podcast today. You don't need to buy a ball on a stick. You buy a can of great stuff, take one of your old worn out footballs and a broomstick.
Talk about being intentional with your drills. I can remember, and I talked about it on this podcast a couple of years ago. Peyton Manning told a story about He did a drill every single day in practice where he had to jump a bag as he rolled out of the pocket, one way or the other. He had to hop over a bag that was on the ground and then make a throw. He worked this for 17 years. And finally, in an NFL football game, he was rolling out of the pocket and a defensive lineman had fallen down in front of him and he hopped him. And he was like, I always wondered why I did that stupid drill, and here it showed up in prime time. And I for 17 years, he wasted practice time jumping a
Yeah.
bag. Now, I guess you could get into the fact that like it's just tied into another drill, but okay.
No, it's not. It's a
But
waste of time. It just is.
someone had to set that up. You're yelling at them if they don't do it right. Did you roll too deep, too short? Like it's just a whole bunch of stuff going into this thing for 17 years before it mattered.
Yeah.
Your drills
And
better matter every week, or cut them, modify them, change them, whatever.
everybody will point to Pat Mahomes and all the amazing things that he does, and they'll go, Pat Mahomes works on all those things. And so they go, so I'm going to have my sophomore quarterback who can't throw a hitch on time work on throwing with his left hand,
Changing his arm
roll
angle.
out of pocket. Right. No. Pat Mahomes works on that because he's got all the other crap down.
And he also has all year long.
And that's all he does. Pat Mahomes, this is all that he does. He has the chance to work on these things. Like, no, that's not how this thing works. You don't have time to work on all that stuff because your kid doesn't throw a hitch. We talked about it last week.
Yeah.
So that's
if you want to idolize a NFL quarterback right now, I think it has to be Josh Allen because he is the runningest. He is quarterback run game, power counter, inside. So it does not matter. And he also just made the highest ever NFL guaranteed paycheck ever.
Let's do a Peyton Manning. One more Peyton Manning story that did matter though. Was at a clinic and oh my gosh, I just forgot his name. He was the Duke head coach. He was the offensive coordinator at Tennessee with Peyton Manning, and then went to be the head coach at Duke. I just completely blanked out his name. I had it just a second ago. Anyway, he's telling everybody will know who it is. I think I'm an idiot. I knew it a minute ago. He's telling a story about Peyton Manning at a clinic talk. And he says when Peyton was a freshman, Peyton was the scout team quarterback as a freshman. Back in the day, freshmen used to be scout team players and stuff, even if they were Peyton Manning.
David Cutcliffe?
David Cutcliffe, yeah. And he's telling a story. He looks down, and Peyton Manning is running a 9v9 drill as the scout quarterback in a 9v9 run. This is all run plays, right? He looks down, and this freshman is down there doing the run play, and then doing his boot action. It's like a goal line 9v9, right? He's doing the run play, then he's doing his play action boot. He has handed the ball off because it's a 9v9. He is booting out, and he is throwing a fake football to a non-existent receiver carrying out his fake. That, number one, was not wasted practice time because he's a scout team quarterback, and nobody gave a crap what he did after he handed the ball off.
Right.
But he was getting the work of how to carry out his fake every single time, because how many times did he run the ball? Well, this is 1999 in the SEC, right? They ran the ball 150 times a game. So I don't know what Tennessee actually did, and I don't even know what year it was, but they ran the ball a lot, and it was out of an I formation probably because, that was all we knew how to do back then.
That's everybody did that.
Everybody was he was probably running a wing tee. Peyton Manning running a wing tee. But like, that's valuable. So, we talk about things that are valuable. What if the coach, the quarterback coach, was running a drill for 10 minutes on how to carry out your fakes? Is that a good use of time? Not a bad use of time. What's a better use of time is teaching that in 1 5-minute period. Here's how to carry out your fakes, holding them accountable to carrying out their fakes. And then every single time that you run a 9v9 period, he's carrying out his fake, whether it's your starting quarterback in a run period or whether it's your scout team quarterback in a run period or any time. If I have a 9v9 period for 10 minutes in my 90-minute practice plan, or for 8 minutes, my 90-minute practice plan, if I have it for 8 minutes, I'm trying to get 16 reps of a run. That's 16 times that my quarterback can run that drill instead of using 10 minutes of indie time.
Right.
That's valuable use of your practice time.
Absolutely. All right, so let's jump to the next spot because we might have our next 90-minute episode.
No,
Second
we're
part,
not. We're wrapping this up real quick.
if you're a coach out there planning it and you still think, even after hearing that first part, like, Coach, I just can't get it all in.
Yeah.
Right? What is our answer there, Coach?
Yeah. So a lot of coaches get it. They go, yeah, I'd love to do that, but there's no way that I could do that. So this is where it will get short. We've already covered this. If you put the container on it and say, because so we talked at the beginning of the show, and I didn't say anything, but at the beginning of the show, we talked about send this to a coach who needs it. All of you guys who have offensive line coaches who are telling, all you head coaches who have offensive line coaches telling you they need more practice time, you need to send them this. Look, you have the best thing that your head coach can do for you, O-line coaches. The best thing your head coach can do for you is say, you got 15 minutes, figure it out. If you think about it is the Friday before vacation week principle, right? I'm going on vacation. I got to get all this stuff done because I'm not going to be here on Monday. The most productive day you ever had is that day because you're going to be gone for the next week, right? The day, I know teachers, you don't necessarily have that exact thing, but you have those situations, right, where you've the days that I'll run into is like we actually talked about it before. I'm going to talk about it in the third segment, but we would have to get ready for the test, right, the big test, and I can't fall behind because the test is the day that the test is, the state standards test. The test is the day that the test is, and so man, I come in there just cooking because I got to catch up on 3 days worth of stuff because we had a snow day in January, and it's okay because right now we're on the Industrial Revolution, and if I got to squeeze if I got to squeeze anything down to one day, I'm going to vote for the Industrial Revolution because by God, we got World War II coming, and I want to make sure I got time. Even though they ask the same number of questions about it, it's much more important and more fun to talk about. So you get in there and you just, and if you tell the kids like we got to get this done, they're like, okay, we got to get this done, and they go, and we just go, let's go. Like you get the kids in the weight room and you go, get the kids in the weight room and go, here's the workout. So you got JDFB weight room. And you put the workout up on the board, right? And you say, all right, I know I do this. If you guys do this, if you guys, work out, you understand this too. Get your kids in the weight room and say, we got 2 hours. Guess how long the workout will take? 2 hours. Go in there and say, you got 1 hour. Now there's a point where we can't get it done, right? But if I go in there and say, you got 1 hour, as long as we don't have groups of 6, we say you got 1 hour to get it done. They can get it done in an hour. You can absolutely get it done in an hour.
Especially if you put squats first. Don't put squats last.
Oh, no,
They will lag
squats
on
should be
you.
second. You should do your explosive, then you should do your squats, and then you should do your accessory work. But yeah, you can get it done. It's like so all of this stuff, like you can do this, and the beauty of it is you are putting that. The key is, I think, the most important thing. Burn the boats, right? Don't leave yourself an out. You decide we got to get this done. Burn the boats, and that means no more. Do it right, do it light, do it wrong, do it long. No more, we're going to restart practice. None of that. If I promise you, if you go out there, whether you are the head coach and you say, we're going to go 90 or we're going to go 2 hours or we're going to go 75. I went 75. It was great. Okay. Towards the end of the year. It wasn't intentional. It was just, we didn't need 90 anymore. We got it done. Burn the boats. If your head coach says, you got 15 minutes of indie time and you feel like you need 30, don't worry about it. The first thing you need to do is get over it. Because these coaches, I did it too. I have 30 minutes of indie time and I really need 40. I was coaching linebackers. I needed 10.
What the hell are you doing for 40
I did a lot
minutes?
of stuff. I did a lot of stuff. So I was a 2 platoon too.
Oh God.
So, but if I had 45, I could fill 45. I can go fill an hour. Like don't mistake this. I do not have a problem. Y'all can see I can talk about football for an hour and a half easily. I can go 2. I can go 3 easily on
Let's
the
do
dumbest
a 3-hour
topic.
episode 0.
But I can go out and run an hour with our offensive line. Sometimes during the off season, I do. Just focusing on one thing. We got the time, 30 minutes or 40 minutes or whatever. But in season, we'll have that time. I don't want that time. If you have 45 minutes, once you reach a certain point, I know a lot of guys are like, there's the opposite side of this, which is my head coach give me 45 minutes. What do I do with it? I can help you fill that time, but it's not going to be as good as if you go to your head coach. If you can convince your head coach, like, I only need 20, like, put some containers on this thing. I promise you guys, if you do it, all you have to do is say, I got 20, build all of your drills around triggers. If you don't know how to do it on offense, it's very, very simple. You just run pieces of your plays. On defense, it is all built around, you can get the defensive drill system inside JDIP premium coaching systems, but you just build around triggers. Key reads, start with key reads, just build around key reads. What is your key reads? Like if I coach DBs, it's all built around triggers. So DB, like for corners, for example, they don't have a key read like a run pass key because they're pass defenders, right? So they're just playing pass, but their key read is off the quarterback. So they get key reads on a hitch thrown to the flat. What's the key on a hitch thrown to the flat? It's the pin out of the grenade. Quarterback pulls the front hand off the football. That's the pin out of the grenade. Now I drive on the hitch. He pulls the hand off the grenade. The front shoulder goes up. That's a key read fade. So we build those key reads, and he plays hitches, and he plays fades, and he plays slants, and then we work on slants, and we work on out routes, and because your key read on the out route is now it's 5-step route now, and the quarterback's shoulder goes outside. That's an out route. It just is. It's outside. And so now I break on it, and then the quarterback says inside. It's a post route or a dig. But we play our body so far inside that we handle the digs in the post by position, and then we play to the outs because they're longer throws. We have more time to break on. This is all thought process. But everything that they do during that practice is built around triggers. What triggers tackling? So what triggers tackling is we break tackling down into the approach, and then once we get to the break point, shimmy point, whatever we want to call it, the point where you break down to make the tackle, you get to that point, and that triggers your breakdown, and that triggers your tackling process. Your tackling process, if you use hawk tackling, is eyes through the thighs. That's your approach. Squeeze the legs, drive for 5, I run the feet. Okay. So as I get to the breakdown, the break point, I eyes through the thighs, I squeeze the legs. Once I get to the legs, I run the feet. Once I make contact, go through and make the tackle. Just trigger. You build everything around triggers, and you go, I'm not going to do anything else. I'm not doing any cool stuff. A really good way to figure this out: don't do anything that involves special equipment. like sled. Nah. Why? Because the sled's not a trigger. It doesn't move. It doesn't give me anything to work off of. It's a nice conditioning tool, but it's not good for in season. It doesn't have a trigger, so I'm not going to use the sled. I don't need boards. The boards are a tool. The chutes are a tool, but I don't need them. And I can go faster without them. So what's the trigger? Does the chute trigger anything? It triggers a headache, but it doesn't trigger anything. It doesn't create an immediate response. And it's not going to, the key is it's not going to be there in a game. You say, well, it teaches them to play low. Yeah, because they don't want to get hit their head on the chute, right? But guess what? What happens when the chute goes away? Now I don't have that fear of hitting my head on the chute.
I feel like that comes down to listen to the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach. I'm forgetting his name. What's his name? Mike Tomlin, talking about he loves to watch coaches run away from having to coach. That's what the chute is. That's you not either knowing what the proper level is, or
not knowing how to explain it. Yeah.
Not knowing how to explain it, or not wanting to be the person who has to tell that guy, hey, you just did that rep wrong. Whatever it is, you're running away from coaching. Coach them on pad level, and let's go to work, right?
I remember we used to get in the chutes, and there's different chutes now. There's adjustable chutes, but the old school, pipes all welded together. And we get the big guy, right? The big
right. His pad level is not the same.
Well, but even still, like, let's say that it's a guy, it's a big guy who just came out for football, right? He doesn't bend well, and he's going through the chute. He's like hunched over. There's no way on God's green earth that he could play a football game this way. What am I
Right.
teaching him? Nothing. I'm just putting him in a horrible body
The
position.
strike zone is different for every batter for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Like it's all variable.
So yeah, put yourself in the container, whether it's put on you by someone else who schedules your practices or you're in charge of scheduling the practice. And if you're a coordinator, you can do this, but you can take control of this. You go to your head coach and you say, listen, I know we're supposed to have 45 and 45 of indie coach. I don't need 45. Give me 20 and invest the other 25 in special teams.
Okay.
Get me that field position.
I just to this section right before we move on, I'm going to add like it's time to start following the science, and that is in number one, our kids have attention spans that are that of an ant now, right? Like it's so short, and so if your periods are super long, you're probably losing kids anyway.
Yes.
They're tired of standing around doing nothing. That's something that luckily most of the coaches I've been under have been very big on. No one is standing around during practice.
Right.
Maybe team at the end when it's like ones versus twos or whatever your thing is, right? Like, of course, only 22 people are on the field. We're simulating a game here, but
if you coach where I've coached, then there's only like one kid standing over there. He's the kicker,
right? And he's like drinking some water so he can go replace the guy that's about.
There's the kicker standing over there. We got a coach playing free safety. Yeah.
Conditioning is the thing that I think we're wasting the most time on in football right now. It is just, there's too many studies showing you don't need to do in-season conditioning. We already talked about athleticspeedmovement.com. Get your sprint in to start the day, but you do it when you're fresh. That's the beginning of practice. You go work speed when you're fresh so that your form is right. You're running the drills at your hardest. It's not something you slide in at the end because they're exhausted. Of course, they're not going to run their hardest. You've just worked them for hopefully only 90 minutes, but more likely 2.5 hours. It's time to follow the science and cut conditioning. Get away from it. You don't need it. It for years was a punishment for me as a football player.
Mm-hmm.
The kids still see it the same way, right? What the hell does your kid do that is failing a class or whatever, right? Like he did something bad in the community and he got busted. What does he do? You run him. So why are you running all of your kids? It's the punishment. Quit running all your kids. Conditioning's over. It's done. Make it what Joe's talking about. 90 minutes. We run around. We hustle and bustle. No one's standing around. The drills are high energy, high impact. Let's go to work. And you do that for 90 minutes. You get your football conditioning. Sprinting over and back is nothing like a football game. Nothing at all. So get cut conditioning, and I promise you'll be able to hit the 90 minutes.
I still like some short, like basically Tabata based type of stuff.
Yeah.
So I like that, but it's 5 minutes. Like,
yeah.
And I've found that I don't know what it is, but in recent years we've had more problems with cramping, and the thing that has helped that has been adding in just a little bit of 5 minutes of something at the end. I will let players run it, and that has helped. And I don't know if it's just like I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's diet. I don't know if it's not drinking enough water. Although kids are, back when I first started teaching, they weren't allowed to have water in the classroom, and now it's like kids are, like my son's has a water bottle everywhere he goes. Yeah. So I don't know what it is, but kids are just. I think it might be that they don't play outside as much.
Probably that.
And so I've found that is the only thing that has been. I was going away from conditioning altogether. I think if you can run a really, really high paced practice, that'll help too, though.
Yeah. Let's jump through this last part. And it's, the fear that my kids are going to fall behind. Okay. We've already mentioned it. Like your system is what it is. You're going into week 3. Your kids still don't know the offense or the defense or whatever it is. So how are we solving that in a 90-minute practice plan, Joe?
I mean, it just all goes back to the Coach Simple philosophy, in that your kids will not fall behind if you're doing the things that are important. You're focusing on the things that matter. You're doing the 80-20, right? You're doing the 20% of things that produce the 80% of results. The truth is that most coaches are doing they're doing everything or too many things, and they're not producing results. So when you have a 3-hour practice, there's probably an hour of that practice that, if it's not just standing around and having bad transitions and wasting time, it's doing drill. It's doing the Peyton Manning jumping over a bag drill, right? That's a waste of time because it's not producing the result that ever is going to matter. Um, I think guys sometimes get into that and they go, well, this doesn't, like, they think um, that they think that the 20% that's not getting taken care of in the 80-20 is more important than it is, or they think that it's different. So, like, what should we be investing? We've been talking a lot about drill work. So when we talk about drill work, it's the 20% of drills that produce 80% of results. And that's a little bit easier to understand. Like, okay, that 1% of the time that Peyton Manning actually needed, 1% being too much, but let's just say it was 1%. High school kids fall down more. So maybe your kid boots out more than Peyton Manning does and has to
Right.
jump over a kid more often. So let's just say it's 1%. That 1%, at what cost? Because if I do that drill every day for the 1% of the time that it happens, the once every 3 games that he boots out, if you throw that much, if you throw 33 times a game, the once every 100 times that he drops back, that there's actually a guy on the ground that needs to jump over. At what cost? Because the cost, that drill wasn't taking up 1% of my time for 1% of the results, right? That the drill is taking up 5% of my time for 1% of my results. I want to do the drill that takes up 5% of my time and produces a result 20, 30, 40% of the plays.
Right.
And then when I move from drills, what a lot of people now leave out is special teams produces massive results. If you're shortchanging special teams, you're missing out on the 80-20, right? If you run the same scheme, run it for 5 minutes every day, or run the same scheme all, like punt. Let's say you're a shield punt team. Okay, you go to coach4.org, you get the shield punt book from Chris Four. It's great. You install it. You run that thing every single day, whether it's 2 reps or 5 minutes or 1 period or whatever. You run it every day. You never change it. And guess what? You have great field position when you have to punt. Hopefully, you don't have to punt that much because but like that's efficient. That's what you want. You take the special teams idea and you now apply that to, we talk about in our offensive play caller episode, that down and distance doesn't matter, but certain situations matter. Now, you don't run a 2nd and 5 period because that's not an important situation. It's 2nd and 5. What are you going to run? You're going to run a play that you think is going to work because you've got leverage, you've got numbers, you've got spacing, you've got bubbles, you've got a place to go. And you're going to run the play that you think is going to score, but that has the highest likelihood of getting 5 yards or getting whatever you need. The play that matters is you work 3rd and long. You work 3rd and short, because if you don't convert, again, assuming you're a team that punts, if you don't convert on that 3rd and long or get yourself closer on that 3rd and long, if you don't convert on that 3rd and short, what are you going to do? You're going to punt that 3rd and long. If you don't convert on that situation, you work the situations. I can tell you that you don't run nearly as many goal line snaps as you think you do, and they feel more impactful because of the fact that if you do a bad job on the goal line, they score. But the reality is, if they got all the way to the 3-yard line on you, they're probably going to score. That means that you work the situation, but you don't work it at we're not spending 20% of practice time on goal line defense. There's a good chance you won't have a single goal line stand in the next game. There's a good chance of it. Because if your defense is really good, they're not getting there. If your defense sucks, they're going to break off a long run anyway. So you got to be good enough to get to do the goal line stand, which is a weird spot to be good enough and bad enough. But that you work the situations that matter in the next phase of practice. You don't just put a ball. So this is, again, efficiency of practice time. You don't just put a ball on the middle of your dirt field and run plays from the same spot over and over again and just run plays, because you're being inefficient because you're not working situational football.
Right. Do 2 things at once.
Right. And so that's where, your kids will not fall behind because you're going to cut the thing down to the things that they need, and then you're going to feed them you're gonna work the drills that they need, and then you're going to organize your practice to feed them the situations that they need. And this is going to be better than any extra drill that you could run. So if you organize your practice this way, if I we talk about mindset, and you and I both love mindset stuff and we love all that stuff. Mindset of a kid who has spent 20 minutes spread out during the course of the week on 3rd and 3 because it's a critical down. Mindset of that kid going, I know what we're doing. I know how to do this. I know what to do, and I know we've run 3rd and 3 20 times this week. It's a critical down, and I know what to do, and I know how we're going to do it. I know what coach is going to call. I don't even need to look at him. We're just going to go run it. Then you have that talk later, but he goes out and he runs the play and he gets it because you put that practice time together for that.
Yeah.
Now take the opposite of that, where you run your 1st and 10 segment and your 2nd and 5 segment and your 2nd and 7 segment. You run a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter, or you just put the ball there.
Yeah.
Like, waste of time. Or I spent that time on drills. Like you have this focused practice. So now, instead of needing 40 minutes to run everything under God's green earth and run it so many times that my guys get experts at it, I go 20 minutes, and every single minute of that is intentional, purposeful, situational football. Red zone, goal line, 3rd down, 4th down, special teams, possession and 10, all of those things.
I think another, if you're really worried about your kids falling behind, you just have to look at what your system is, and is it too much? Have you just went to USC.com and copied Lincoln Riley's playbook? It's not there, by the way. Have you picked up college football 25 and tried to just write down every play that you saw? Right? If you aren't, you either need to teach less plays or teach it more efficiently. I'm big into the tag system right now, and I'm teaching like 5 football plays, but then we're going to tag the crap out of them, right? And those tags are universal. So it doesn't matter which of the 5 plays I called. I can tag people to do something on all of them. So figure out a way to get more in more efficiently, or quit putting so much crap in, right? And that will prevent. I'm not saying you shouldn't be installing after week 1. Like, you get a couple, most of us get 2 weeks before week 1, right? Or week 0, whatever your first game is. You talked about a 5-day practice plan. You can get all this stuff in 5 days, and then you have 5 more days to like get the warm and fuzzy, or the I'm comfortable.
Well, it continues to evolve, but you've got the base. I mean,
right. And then
at that point, it's like you said, it's tags and stuff. It's not new,
right?
New. It's tags. It's adjustments, and you can do, again, if you can do it in 5 minutes, you can do it in 5 minutes.
Yeah. I figured whatever way you're going to go with that. If every single change to you, I would call a tag, is now a new play name, you probably need to figure something else out. If you're trying to put in 150 tags so that you can just call, 10 plays with 150 tags, you're probably doing too much. So just figure out what it is that you're doing. If you're worried about your kids falling behind, it could be because you were just trying to do too much. I'm not even saying you got to be gap scheme or zone scheme and that's it. You can do both, right? But you just can't do too much. Yeah. So that's probably where you're going to worry about your kids falling behind.
I think that it goes back to being purposeful. You look at your playbook. If you've ever, what's the organization woman talks? She's got the folding method, folding clothes, but she goes through how to.
She's the one that makes you like thank your clothes for their time and service and then send them on their way.
Correct.
I don't know her name.
I cannot remember her name, and she's got a book and so on and so forth. You lay out all your clothes. It starts with your clothes, but you go through everything in your house. You lay it all out, and you decide basically, does it have a purpose? You need to go through that with your playbook. It's not a bad, like, we talk about all this level up stuff. It's good to take things from outside of football and apply them to football.
Marie Kondo, is that her?
Yep. Yes. And I forget what her book's name is, but it's probably sitting on your screen if you found her. Go through every play. If the play is there because you think it's a good play, you probably don't need it. If the play is there because you know the exact situation that you want to use it, you know what weakness it attacks, you know which team on your schedule has that weakness and how you're going to use it, you see the scenario for that play, It's good.
Yeah.
If you've got 100 of them, here's the truth. You're going to run 50, right? If you run 90, you don't have time to get them in, right? If you happen to be in a place where you have to run 90 of those plays, you're going so fast, you don't have time to call 90 different plays.
Right.
So, you look at, especially defensively, you're going to be a lot of base and, whatever, but you look at what has a purpose. And if it has a purpose, you keep it. And if it doesn't have a purpose, if it's outlived its purpose, you let it go. And again, those are things redundant. Do you have, 2 plays that attack the outside and you really only need one? Then you make those changes.
Her book is The Life-Changing, where'd it go? The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. And the other one is Joy at Work, and the other one is Spark Joy. So pick one, enjoy that. I don't know. Let's close it out here, Joe. Another 100 hour and 10 minutes here. So once again, remind you to refer a listener. Look, send this episode to a friend of yours. The last one was our passing game sucks and how we simplify football, get back to a simple passing game, gain some success, and then worry about trying to be Mike Leach. Next week, we're going to talk about we can't stop the run. So the podcast is going offense, it's going defense. Tonight, we're talking practice planning. We've got something for everyone. Share the podcast with a friend of yours that's in the coaching business or a parent that wants to learn why their kid's at practice for 4 hours. I don't know. Tonight, we talked about I don't have time to coach the right things. We talked about efficient practice planning and what the right things are to put in that practice plan. We talked about the ability to just get it all in, right? If you think you can't get it all in, yes, you can. It's time to prioritize. And then worrying about your players falling behind. Very good segment there. We talked a little bit about maybe you need to trim what you're doing. Don't be redundant with something we mentioned at the end. Your kids aren't going to fall behind as long as you be purposeful and intentional with your practice. Let's pay the bills, man.
Yeah, go check out latest free guide that we have, What You Need to Know to Build Your Ultimate Defensive Football Coaching System. It's a guide that's going to give you the blueprint for building your defensive system that works, simplify your playbook, get your players to buy in, take control of the game. Download it right now. Go to joedanielfootball.com/system. If you're afraid of forgetting it, tell Siri. And if you aren't in a place where you can get it right now, tell Siri. Remind me to go to joedanielfootball.com/system for my free coaching guide. Download it. It is going to be the thing to take the guesswork out of coaching for you, build your ultimate defensive system, and turn your football program around this season. joedanielfootball.com/system.
Talk about athletic speed and movement. Listen, I told you the bluff is we're going to make your kids faster. So it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what your kids look like, how fast they are already or slow they are already. We're going to make them faster. 20 minutes a day in the off season, 2 days a week. It is time that you can afford. You can put it into your practice plan. It is a priority, and it should be. We talked about Derek Smith, who told us that strength starts deteriorating after like 13 days. Speed deteriorates after 3 days. You need to be working speed. You need to do it when you're fresh. Athletic Speed and Movement will give you the plan, the drills, everything you need to teach your kids how to run. So we get those kids that are awkward, lanky, I don't know where my body is stage. You fix that. And then we get the drills to how to run fast, and we start practicing that. AthleticSpeedMovement.com. Also, quickly want to mention Patreon.com/Chamberlain Football Consulting. That's where I personally am trying to help coaches with all the things they need. Look, X's and O's, I'm going to send you to Joe. I'm going to send you to Kenny. I'm going to send the guys that have years and years and years in this practice. You start getting into your digital stuff. You need social media presence. You need the ability to create graphics. Whatever it is, that's where you come to me. You let me help you get better at that so you can celebrate the kid you have. Right now is a huge time in America where kids are hitting transfer portals. High school, college, doesn't matter. Kids are leaving if they're not happy. This is just another tool to ensure that football is fun for your kids, and it's something that I can help you with. So patreon.com/Chamberlain Football Consulting. Let's get the kids to stay on your roster. Let's make them happy. Let's celebrate them. Let's, really just kind of honor the good stuff. Moving on, Joe, what are the sales that are opening and closing right now?
No idea.
Right? I don't even think this comes out on the 27th.
Yeah, maybe. If that's the case, then we're probably doing football coaching accelerator system.
There you go. Here's the deal. If you don't know what is
But be on
open
the
or
email
closing
list,
right
yeah.
now, that means you haven't gotten the email from Joe, which means you need to go to joedanielfootball.com. You need to sign up, give him your email. He'll start sending you the things that you need to know are opening, closing, what your the good dates are. Social media, I am at Coach Chambo OK on Twitter. Chamberlain Football Consulting at gmail.com is my email. Send me emails for anything, guys. I'm in a great place right now to be answering questions about football, talking about Joe Daniel's system, talking about whatever I have up to offer. I do have a website, chamberlainfootballconsulting.com. It's really right now just a good place to go get the podcast if you aren't already getting them somewhere else. We are talking about Patreon and the YouTube where I'm teaching my wife football. That is my Back to the Basics series I'm doing right now. I literally say, hey, wife, what do you not know about football? And she says, I don't understand the difference in a pulling guard and a down block. Cool, let's talk about it. So I've got a series over there where I'm talking about those things. Check out my YouTube. I think it's Chamberlain Football Consulting. Google me and YouTube. It'll figure it out. Joe, where are you at, sir? Because it's the greatest Twitter name ever.
Find our YouTube channel. If you search for Joe Daniel Football on YouTube, you will find, if you want to watch the podcast and see us, you can do that at YouTube. Just search for Joe Daniel Football.
Some episodes are funner to watch than they are. I had face paint on one time. I came out
True.
of the jungle
It's true.
to do a podcast. Sometimes I have my mustache, sometimes I don't. It's a great place to go check out what's going on this month. If your first time
You can
listening
go
to
leave
football,
a crappy comment because you think you know what you're doing too.
you can do that.
Yeah.
Listen to the Football Coaching Podcast. Be sure.
That guy didn't make it this far, by the way. So I'm not
a chance.
Yeah.
Subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. You can find us on your favorite podcatcher, Spotify and Apple Podcasts, where like most of you are listening. We get it. That's where I listen to my stuff too. If you've been listening for a while, please leave a review, especially on Apple Podcasts. Spotify is picking up some traction. Leave a review there. We'd like 5 stars or 5 thumbs up or whatever the thing is now. We want to spread the word. We want to help more coaches. That's what we're here for, is helping coaches. Help us help that by giving, or help us do that by giving us a review. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Football Coaching Podcast. Remember, coach simple, play fast, win.